Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com. And you know what? Some movies, they love to follow a pretty clear, strict formula, adhering to the tried and tested tenets of cinematic storytelling that have prevailed ever since the beginning. But these 10 movies, well, they spat on cinematic convention, threw the tropes in the garbage, and forged ahead on their own unbeaten paths. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 movie moments where you had no idea what was going to happen next. Number 10. Introducing Diane Selwyn, Mulholland Drive. If you're watching any David Lynch movie not called The Elephant Man or The Straight Story, you should be bracing yourself for the inevitable moment where the surrealist filmmaker flips the script and upends everything you thought you knew. And arguably, Lynch has never pulled this off better than in Mulholland Drive, an already enigmatic yet luridly compelling mystery thriller which takes a sharp left turn in its final half hour, where Naomi Watts suddenly changes from the plucky Betty Elms into struggling actress Diane Selwyn. The moment Diane wakes up in the very apartment that Betty and Rita have been investigating, and when another character refers to her as Diane, all bets are bloody off. The remainder of the film is a nightmarish, ambiguous coda which fans have fiercely dissected ever since, and Lynch has largely refused to elaborate on. Even for the already freewheeling standards of the inimitable filmmaker, this was Lynch telling the audience, "You thought the last 2 hours were weird? Oh, well, you ain't seen nothing yet." Number 9. The Secret Bunker. Parasite. Last year's Best Picture Oscar winner Parasite is definitely one of those movies best seen with as little knowledge of the wider plot as possible, so apologies for covering it here on this list. Now, the film was largely marketed as a black comedy about a poor family who manipulate their way into working for a wealthy family in various capacities, all while the wealthy family has no idea that they're all related. Now, this hook is pretty enticing for an entire movie, but the director ingeniously fields out a wildly unexpected surprise roughly halfway through the story. Here it's revealed that the rich family's previous housekeeper has been hiding her husband in the home's secret underground bunker for 4 years in order to avoid loan sharks. It's a twist both hilarious and shocking, effectively pulling the bottom out from under the movie and leaving audiences with absolutely no idea where things will go from here. It truly has to be seen to be believed. Number 8. Ryan Gosling Dies, The Place Beyond the Pines. Much like Parasite, the marketing for the superb thriller that is The Place Beyond the Pines concealed its central conceit, suggesting instead that the film was focused entirely on the cat and mouse game between bank robber Luke and rookie cop Avery. But at the end of the film's first act, the director leaves the audiences slack-jawed when Luke is shot and killed by Avery, the latter of whom is only introduced into the story moments earlier. The second act of the film is devoted to Avery and the fallout of this shooting, before the third act leaps forward 15 years to follow the two men's sons. All of this was kept from audiences until they were actually watching it unfold for themselves, and while many were left baffled by Gosling's early exit, given that he was the key aspect of the marketing, the rest of the movie's brilliance absolutely justified the deception. Number 7. Amanda is Found, Gone Baby Gone. Ben Affleck's stunning directorial debut revolves around the disappearance of a 4-year-old girl called Amanda and the efforts of private investigators Patrick and Angie who are trying to track her down. Now, in fairness, the entirety of the movie is an uneasy exercise in suspense where Amanda's fate could certainly go one of many different ways. But few could have predicted the late-stage reveal that Amanda is not only alive and well, but has been living nearby with police captain Jack, who arranged the kidnapping to get Amanda away from her neglectful mother and raise Amanda with his wife. It's a totally flabbergasting WTF moment, at which point Patrick is faced with one of the most agonizing cinematic dilemmas of the last 20 years. Let Amanda stay with Doyle, where she'll most likely have a responsible upbringing, or call the cops and have her return to her actual mother. To heighten the tension, Angie threatens to break off both their business and romantic relationships if he notifies the police, and so viewers are left on tenterhooks as Patrick mulls over his decision. Ultimately, Patrick decides to notify the police, though the film's chilling ending confirms that the true mother continues to be neglectful of Amanda, leaving audiences to ponder what the right thing truly was. Number 6. LENA Enters the Lighthouse, Annihilation. Alex Garland's instant sci-fi classic Annihilation is centered around the Shimmer, a mysterious extraterrestrial zone which began to flourish after a meteor crashed into Earth. Garland's glorious slow burn makes it increasingly clear that anyone who enters the Shimmer is liable to find themselves subject to its influences, namely having their DNA drastically altered, potentially mutating them into something else entirely. The epicenter of the Shimmer is a lighthouse, which the meteor crashed into, and which protagonist Lena has been working working her way towards over the course of the movie. She finally makes it there, and who among us had any idea what they were actually expecting to see inside? Well, Garland doesn't offer up a ton of crystalline expectations, though the sights are nevertheless unforgettable. Her husband Kane committing suicide with an incendiary grenade, Dr. Ventress transforming into a nebulous object, and even the protagonist facing off against a metallic doppelganger of herself, and then finally burning the lighthouse down to destroy the shimmer. Annihilation is an expert example of how to craft an absorbing mystery that leads adventurous audiences down a largely uncharted path while still delivering a satisfying, if rather ambiguous, end. Number 5. Frankie becomes a quadriplegic. $1 Million Baby. On paper, $1 Million Baby seemed like a pretty standard issue, albeit a well-crafted one, focusing on an underdog amateur boxer, Margaret, who strives to become a professional. For the first 2/3 of the movie, that seems totally on the money, but during a fight with an especially dirty opponent, she sucker-punched after the bell, causing her to fall onto the stool that was left in the ring, breaking her neck in the process. Maggie is rendered quadriplegic, who cannot breathe without ventilator assistance, which in a supposedly inspirational boxing movie is quite the narrative brick wall. Audiences might assume for a scene or two that Maggie could somehow stage a comeback, but that hope quickly evaporates as her condition worsens. And so the rest of the film instead chronicles her campaign to die on her own terms, culminating in her trainer Frankie illegally euthanizing her with a shot of adrenaline. Though director Eastwood took a major gamble on audiences' willingness to follow this deeply upsetting narrative thread, it paid off in colossal box office success and 4 Oscar wins, including Best Picture and Best Director. Number 4. Jack is Tyler Durden. Fight Club. David Fincher's iconic dramatic thriller is a film that just cannot be put into a box. From the moment it starts, it's continually one-upping expectations with its difficult-to-categorize premise, inscrutable performances, and ambitiously surreal visual style. Even so, Fight Club becomes something else entirely when, almost a half hour before the end, it's revealed that our narrator-protagonist Jack and Tyler Durden are one and the same, Durden being a disassociated personality within Jack's mind. We have just lost cabin pressure, Jack tells us, and you know what? He is not wrong. It's one of the best twists in film history, and with so much movie time left, viewers have absolutely no idea where it's all leading. Things only escalate from there. Jack just barely avoids being castrated, discovers that Tyler is planning to blow up the credit card buildings around them to erase debt records, and shoots himself in the face in order to air quotes kill Tyler in his own mind. Oh, and the buildings still blow up anyway, and the pixies take us to the end credits. Nobody could have guessed any of what would happen as a consequence of Tyler's true identity being revealed, and trust me, it is a wild ride even today. Number 3. Rex meets with Raymond. The Vanishing. The 1988 Dutch thriller The Vanishing chronicles the obsessive efforts of Rex, who was trying to track down his girlfriend who disappeared from a rest stop during their vacation 3 years prior. The chilly genius of this film is that it deals with the actual kidnapper Raymond in uncommonly upfront terms, rather than concealing his identity for a third act plot twist. Rex becomes increasingly besotted with finding out what happened to her, such that Raymond actually reaches out to him, with the two finally meeting in person at the climax. Raymond then offers to show Rex what actually happened to his girlfriend, but only if he agrees to drink drugged coffee and experience exactly what she did. Rex, consumed by his obsession, reluctantly agrees, while the audience is just left squirming at the possibilities of what misfortune may befall him. And so comes the film's wildly unpredictable climax. Rex wakes up buried alive in a coffin, destined to die the same lonely, prolonged death that his long-lost love did, all the while Raymond returns to his blissfully unaware family. It's a brilliant film, there's no doubt about that, but just make sure to give the 1993 remake a wide berth, just because it changes the ending and it's just not as good at all. Number 2. Howard's Big Bet. Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems is one of the most stressful and anxiety-inducing films of recent times, and that's largely down to the uncompromising presence of Adam Sandler's gambling addict jeweler protagonist Howard. He's exactly the sort of person who will either fail upwards until the end of time, or eventually over-leverage himself and get clipped in the head for it. Both options seem equally likely in the film's sweaty-palmed climax, where Howard has his girlfriend Julia place a $175,000 $100,000 bet on a seemingly unlikely Boston Celtics victory. While the game is going on, Howard is accosted at his jewelry store by Arno, a loan shark that he owes money to, and his lackeys Phil and Nico. But Howard makes the bold decision to lock the three between the store's security doors, allowing him to watch the rest of the game in relative peace. At this point, anything could happen. Howard could lose all of his money right there and get killed for his trouble, or win large and run off into the night. As it turns out, the actual result is a perverse mixture of the two. The bold bet does indeed pay off, with Howard winning $1.2 million, but upon letting his three prisoners free, an irate Phil shoots him and Arno dead. It's a rare film where practically anything could have happened to Howard, and it would have actually made sense. And number 1, Martin's Ultimatum, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Now this is a film that loves keeping audiences in the dark for practically the entirety of the movie. And this psychological thriller, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, is a true mind melter. This film follows cardiac surgeon Stephen, who befriends a teenage boy Martin, whose father apparently died in a car crash a decade prior. But almost halfway through the film, it's revealed that Martin's father actually died during a botched heart surgery performed by Stephen. In return, Martin has stricken Stephen's family with a curse which will cause his wife and children to die agonizing deaths until Stephen decides to kill one of them to redress the balance. It's a complete mind melter of a gear shift for the rest of the movie, with audiences left to ponder quite how far this director is going to take this demented premise. As it turns out, pretty damn far, given that the film concludes with a sight nobody could have predicted: Stephen tying up his family, putting on a blindfold, and spinning around in a circle with a rifle, blindly firing a fatal shot into his son to break the curse. Yeah, it's quite something to behold. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 movie moments where you just had no idea what was going to happen next. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. That's Dice with a C, where I do all of my streaming outside of work. And it'd be great to see you over there, my friends. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.